Hey everyone, welcome to another daily cinephile vlog. I just wanted to share some really quick thoughts on The Last of Us, the premiere that aired on HBO just this past Sunday. And I want to say right away, I have not played The Last of Us video game. I've been waiting 10 years to play it. I mean, I remember when this game was being promoted, when it was like first being released back in the Blip days. If anyone remembers Blip, they used to do ad campaigns, and they would often have the same ad campaign for like 2 or 3 months. And The Last of Us was promoted on there for the longest time. I wasn't sure if I was going to watch it, but I heard such good things about the first episode. I was like, screw it, I'll watch it. And it's amazing. It is fantastic. There's going to be stuff I say that a lot of people will probably say to me is part of the video game. So I will probably be giving credit to the show that the video game established, but that just means that the video game is all the more better and the TV show is all the more better for continuing it. I've seen a lot of zombie movies. I know some people are going to say that this is not a zombie movie because technically they're not zombies, but this is part of the zombie genre. Let's face it, it has all you would find in a typical zombie movie. Except it's even better than that. The movie starts off with this prologue that takes place in the 60s on a television show between two professors. Someone's explaining that fungus when taken in by the human body, and they say that the fungus can only survive in so low of a temperature anyway, but what if the fungus has to adapt to a warmer climate? And from there, you don't even need any more explanation. I mean, we've already heard about how the climate is getting warmer, and just from there, they cut to the year 2003. I was actually shocked that they started at 2003. I was expecting it to, of course, go to modern times. At first, I was wondering if the show was going to be chilling in the year 2003 and maybe building up to when the outbreak occurs. And I wasn't sure how I felt about that because I've seen this type of thing before, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to see an entire season of a zombie outbreak. But no, it gets things going almost immediately. They also put you into the setting of the year 2003 because at this point, yeah, it's been 20 years ago. Things were slightly different then, especially technology-wise. That sets up where the rest of the show is going to take place. There hasn't been technological advancements. They never made like iPhones, for instance, iPads, all kinds of different computer advancements, a lot of stuff that might be even more helpful if an outbreak were to happen. But instead, they're stuck with the resources that they are left with from the year 2003. We are introduced to Pedro Pascal's character and his daughter and his brother. Things are just treated like it's a normal day. And that's why the outbreak is so disturbing, because it takes the notes from other zombie movies like World War Z, Dawn of the Dead, where the zombies can run, and it, of course, causes havoc. There is a very disturbing scene where the neighbor lady, who the daughter goes and visits, starts shaking, and like you see her head tilting back, her mouth widening, and it's all happening, but you can't see it so clearly because it's blurred in the background, and you're just like worried for this daughter's safety. And once the outbreak occurs, you know, there's the normal stuff that you usually see in these types of movies. All the TV stations are blacked out. They're saying it's a state of emergency. But I think the coolest part was how usually in a zombie movie, I'm like, yeah, if you could just escape this, drive away from the major cities, that would probably help. But this show actually details that, you know, one, it'd be kind of hard to escape a large city, especially when things are spreading so rapidly. You also have people who don't understand what's going on, and they just want to help all these people who are infected without realizing that they can get infected just as fast. It really shows just how chaotic an outbreak like this could be. Not only that, the streets are jam-packed, and even though they try to find a shortcut, already the military is trying to take things over, and they stop at anybody from escaping the highway, which, yeah, I mean, I never thought about that part of it. It's like there still is going to be a military force, and the military force is going to do everything they can to shut down this virus, which means shooting people. It leads to a very emotional and tragic scene just within the first few minutes. And then bam, it's 20 years later. I wasn't sure I felt about that either. And this show just kept surprising me. It kept doing things that I wasn't. I kept trying to guess what it was going to do. And it always did something different and something better. When it jumped 20 years, I'm not a huge fan of seeing that kind of thing. Especially Pedro Pascal, you look pretty good for being 20 years older. They jumped 20 years and already we're seeing the effects of the outbreak many, many years later. The army has taken control and wields its powers against the people. Even in a situation like this, dictatorship reigns, and it was very effective to take over given the circumstances. There's a rebellious force trying to fight against the army. Pedro Pascal, he just finds odd jobs here and there, but he also deals drugs on the side. I like all the details with the buildings that are falling apart because there's just no need for maintenance anymore. They don't have the resources to do that. They're running out of resources like plastic bags, paper. I mean, you could see some of the paper they're using is just rough, and yeah, it's been sitting around for 20 years because they don't have people to get paper from anymore. They also have ways of testing people if they have the virus or not, and once they test people, they simply kill them and they do a mass burning. It's a very bleak society, but man, the production design is incredible. For what the show looks like, it looks amazing. This really looks like a movie. And it's HBO, so I mean, that makes sense, but it looks so fantastic. I mean, Game of Thrones technically has to do a lot more, probably, with the special effects, but here there was an airplane crash, which causes an explosion, the effects on these zombie creatures themselves, and it all just looks fantastic. I really never thought I was watching a TV show. There's this girl named Ellie who, it's pretty obvious from the beginning that she's going to be some kind of source or some kind of solution to figuring out a cure. And Pedro Pascal's character is enlisted to take this girl past the boundaries of the city, which the government and the army doesn't allow people to go beyond. And then they find out that she has the virus as well, but it doesn't impact her in the same way that's been impacting the zombie creatures. So there you go. She's some kind of solution to the problem. It was really cool how that actress played that role. She acts like a teenager, but at the same time, given that this is 20 years since any sort of normal society, everybody's a little rougher. They're a little meaner with the way they talk. They don't really have boundaries when it comes to treating children a certain way or children treating adults a certain way. And you can really see the age of this world since the outbreak occurred. There's also all these just small details with these other additional characters that live in this city with little body parts that have been cut off, their arms or even just fingers. And they show a sign at one point that shows that infection can start spreading depending on where you're bitten. It takes a few hours if you're bitten on the arm, so I just assume that those people probably had their arms cut off. In a way that it takes a lot of what you already know about other zombie movies. They trust the audience to figure out what's going on, and the dialogue is not written as an exposition dump. And this is one of the better premieres I've ever seen. It did everything that you want out of a TV show. It has likable characters, it has an engaging story, it keeps things moving along, it doesn't treat the audience like they're dumb, and it doesn't feel generic, even though it's doing a type of story that's been seen many times before, but they have so many new ways of going about it. Just the idea of jumping 20 years alone was, I was worried about it just because I don't want to see a movie or a TV show do that within the first few minutes. But the fact that it actually creates a whole new environment that we don't always see in zombie movies. We have Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, which is after the outbreak, but never something quite like this. This is incredibly unique, and I'm looking forward to what's next, so let me know your thoughts on The Last of Us.